Final Fantasy VII Remake. The best movie I've ever played. And I really love this game. I love the game. I love large part of the game. Especially every arid scene, the Barrett scenes, Jesse scenes, and so on. They are amazing. The visual effect is great. And if I was purely reviewing a movie, this would actually be a 10 out of 10 easy, 10 out of 10 game right. But unfortunately, and again, I really love huge part of the game. Love them. But there are other parts where I'm like, is this a game, or did they add in this thing afterward to make these padding out the time right? So, it's some parts in this game is amazing, and some parts are very, very questionable. So I really want to get the most fair review ever, and I spent 2 weeks now after beating the game completely, so I want to really think about what is this for a game actually, right? I would say the most glaring of it is Chapter 9. Chapter 9 is the best chapter in many regards, has the funniest scene, the best interaction with characters, the most comedy, cross-dressing, it's flashy, the cool mini-games coming in, so right. Chapter 9 is a great chapter, but at the same time, it also has the worst part of the game. And I'm not talking about, this is the best part, I'm talking about the freaking arm thing in the game. So the game has a lot of this padding out things. I'll talk about it much more detail later in the review, but I think this is basically what I say immediately here. The game has this weird stuff where it's like, you have to move an arm now, you have to pump this thing now, you have to pull this lever now, and so on, right? So from an actual gameplay perspective, it's something like Final Fantasy meets Uncharted or something. A little bit also Death Stranding, where it's like, we made a really cool movie, let's add some gameplay to the movie afterwards, right? So anyway, let's talk about from the basic, what is Final Fantasy Remake, and let's just generally go over the whole game, right? And this would be more or less a spoiler-free review. So what is the game then? Final Fantasy VII Remake is a typical JRPG game, meaning it has a lot of story, characters, some epic journey between heroes and bad guys, right? And saving the world in the end, etc. And then the first thing you have to think about here, though, and it has to be mentioned, is this is part 1 of number of parts, probably, I guess, 3 parts, which means that if you buy this game, which is a full price game, right, you will not be able to actually finish the story, so to speak. Of course, the game has an end, and then we will have to wait a few years for the next part, and it's probably 3 parts, right? So that's the first thing you have to be considering, and I think it's fair to say that the game should arguably have a lower score from an analytic standpoint, probably, but I will ignore that for the actual scoring here, but I think that's a fair point people will make, right? It's only a part 1 game, maybe it should cost less for a part 1 and so on. And the actual gameplay then, it is very, very linear, and I don't say linear as a bad or a good thing, but I will say that this game is absolutely, objectively more linear than FF13. Right? FF13 was very, very anti-hyped for its linearity, even if 10 is more linear. But I would say that FF7 Remake is the most linear Final Fantasy game I've ever played, and arguably the most linear JRPG game I have ever played. And I play a lot of JRPG games. So the most obvious thing that actually makes FF7 Remake even more linear, not is the corridors or whatever, is that the party is never decided by you. The game will always say you have to play Cloud Tifa now, you have to play Cloud Aerith now, you have to play Cloud Barrett now, and so on. Or sometimes it would be like you have to play Tifa and Aerith now, and stuff like that. Even at the last boss in the game, you can't pick your own team and so on. And that, I think, makes the game feel very, very more linear than the other Fantasy game. And also has no open world map and so on, right? But I think that in particular, because you can't even pick your own party. And the game does constantly handhold you through the experience by having the character run forward and say, Kuchi, Cloud, it's over here, right? Now it's like showing the path, or Tifa, it's like, here, Cloud, let's go this path, and so on. And that constantly makes the game feel incredibly hand-holding, but also that you never have any freedom to do anything whatsoever. So I think it's very clear that they picked the game and they made, a storytelling, right? An experience, again, a movie over gameplay, right? So that's one of the big things. And that being said, though, I really do love all the different story elements. I think in particular, the scene where you meet up with Aerith second time, and you're gonna go from the church escape onto this rooftop, is an amazing interaction. The dialogue, the language, it's so good. And I have played the game both in Japanese and in English, and I have the Japanese is better, but I think it's pretty good too. But the Japanese is amazing. And yeah, this moments here, I'm crying all the time, it's goosebumpy, it is very, very well done. Again, as I mentioned earlier, if this would be a movie review, this would be a 10 out of 10 movie. So all these scenes are great, and while this scene could arguably feel as a slow scene, because you have to walk through all this stuff and so on, the dialogue is really great, you have interactive with Aerith, you can, get to know each other. It's just a really warm and it's a great moment in gaming history. Truly, truly one of the best history I ever had in the game. Unfortunately, this kind of amazing scene is great for the time, but then you have the weird, like, oh, let's run through, I don't know, 100 corridors of black, purple, blue stuff with almost no dialogue, and it's just super padded out. So the game doesn't really have, it is very inconsistent when it comes to this kind of these moments. So before the church in here, we have Sector 5 with Barrett and Tifa and Cloud, and that I think is arguably the worst part of the whole game. It is really, really, I think it's almost boring. I should say it's boring, that part. And then after that, you fall down, meet Aerith, and the game is amazing, right? So it goes from like a 5 out of 10 to 10 out of 10, and that's why the game is so incredibly jarring. Because again, this here is an amazing moment when you meet up with Aerith, but you see before that was dreadful. I think even the first time I played it, I was like, this is pretty boring. And when I had to replay it in hard, I was like, man, I just want to skip this chapter over, but I have to play every chapter in hard, so I guess I have to do it. And you're just gonna rush through it, and it's just like, wow, where is it gonna end? And as I mentioned earlier, chapter 9 is the big example of this, because it really exemplifies the game's dragged out mini games. Let's talk about the mini games of the game. So I think it's very important to talk about its padding here. So what the game does is that it constantly puts you into not really mini games like a blitzball or a chocobo racing, but these kind of small mini games. We do it like once, twice in the game. We have to pull a lever or open a door by doing up and down with the button and so on. And the game does this all the time. Many chapters has these things. The arm thing, as mentioned, is the worst of them. But I will say here, and I start by saying this, they're all bad. They're all bad, and that's, I mean, I don't want to hurt them. I want to love the game, I want to love the JRPG game, but these are all horrible. And as you can see here, you can't even fail on this one, because it constantly gives the red thing bigger and bigger, so it's, it's super casual, you can never fail it, it's gonna keep going. And literally, every one of these padding out mini games could be removed from the game. I think they could all be, just throw them out, and the game will be a better game. And the thing is that some people can complain about the game length, and I would agree that I think the game length is also pretty short in the game. But, and I start by saying this, I would rather have a shorter Final Fantasy Remake, a shorter game in total. Let's remove 10 hours of the game. If everything we remove are these padding out mini games, remove them all, and the game will be better. They don't add anything to the game, they just make the game boring. So let's talk about the combat system in the game. The combat system is really great. It has great potential, and I feel the next game is going to be amazing. So let's explain why. So the combat system basically is free moving, right? And you get your meter by attacking, and just by time. And your meter and ATB, you can use abilities. You have up to 2, you can get 3 if you use refocus. And most ability cost 1, then some cost 2 and do a little more damage, and so on, or heal more and so on. And you speculate the material, stuff like that, right? And then you fight. And yeah, it feels great. Every character is somewhat different. I think it's mainly is that you have either a melee or a ranged character. So Tifa and Cloud are very similar, right? Aerith and Barrett are similar to that extent, right? And they have different utility and so on with the different special abilities. And the characters add materia, and the weapons kind of combine there. So the characters are mainly specified by their abilities. And the system, it's fun, it feels good, it flows, and I would say the general problem though, and it's gonna be a lot of problems, I know, but some problems here, is that generally the game don't reach its own potential. The game is not filling out its potential. It's just like every enemy is just way too easy as the first thing. The enemies don't have interesting weaknesses. Basically every enemy is weak to one element. You use fire element, then you're weak, and then you win. There is very little strategy in the game. So while the gameplay feels really great, and it flows great to me, the UX feels great, it feels incredibly easy. And I really mean that even on normal, it is incredibly easy. And that is very disappointing. But I think generally here, This is me the first time I fight Malboro. This is the first time again I fight the secret boss here. And I am not prepared, I don't have Isuna on me against Bad Breath. And I'm still defeating him very, very easily by cutting it away, getting the distance. I think one thing in the game in particular is you can really cheese every boss basically by running away from them, yeah. And the focus is the one. It's very, very exploitable in the game. And so yeah, we know. So let's dwell more into the combat system. A combat system is the core gameplay, right, of a JRPG. And I think that one particular thing, as I mentioned again, the game is too easy, right? It was really utilizing the enemies' ability and so on. But when I got to the last boss in the game, and this is a good example here. I want to spoil, so last boss in the game. I won on the first attempt. Second last boss, first attempt. I only died like 3 or 4 times in total in this game, and then one of those deaths was the mini game. So the game is incredibly easy, right? Super easy. And people can say, oh, but you have hard mode and that's gonna like defend, you know. That's not enough. And I'm not saying that because hard mode also is very easy, but the problem is that when I get to the last boss in this game, you have to play the game on normal the first time. That's a very big thing, right? If you can play it from hard from the beginning, well, better. But you have to play it for normal to begin with the game. And then when you get to the last boss, you defeat the last boss first attempt. That's a very underwhelming feeling, right? It's a very underwhelming emotion having to you finally get to the last boss and you defeat them so easily. It's just like, but it's over? That's it? You cannot expect them to have a second, fourth, sixth, seventh form, right? Oh, it's already over. That's a very boring experience. It just feels weird. It's like, how did I get here? And again, I defeated the second last boss also without dying. This boss Rufus without dying. So almost every boss on normal is incredibly super easy. You defeat them the first attempt almost always, and then you play hard, and maybe you die a few times on hard, but the still game is too easy on hard as well. But even if hard was 10 times harder, the problem of course is that I shouldn't so easily breeze through the first fight against any boss, right? And one thing is really weird in the combat system is that it's very exploitable. So if you just run away from the boss, you get metered by time. You can't fight, so you don't get metered faster, but by just getting distance from the boss, you can almost always just beat the boss if you just want to cheese it out, right? And also, because some bosses are just very weak against one element, it's better to just restart the fight immediately. If you play it on hard, you say, oh yeah, fire, restart and pop, yeah, and then you beat it with super easy. So it's a very weird system that I really feel that its combat system is very, very good, honestly. Again, I feel the combat system is very, very strong, but it doesn't utilize correctly. It's like they made a core good system, but then the bosses and especially the normal enemies are not being utilized well. We happen to the enemies that are like magic immune or physical immune and this stuff, and you have to do this thing, and it's just too few enemies with interesting mechanics on the bosses, right? Or for shields and so on. And it's just very much blatantly, okay, fire weak, use fire. And the very few bosses have no actual weakness, there is just no strategy then. It's just kind of, you beat them and you, well, some bosses are like, use your mana well or barriers, just fight the attack, and that's the strategy. It's incredibly super simplistic strategy game. And most JRPG games, right, you play them for the strategy, right? And because this game is then action freely moving, you could always say, oh, it's a hack and slasher one. But I played many JRPG games, action RPG games, so on, where you definitely have a lot more strategy and a lot more complicated fights and so on. So it doesn't really defend the game either. But again, I think the biggest thing is that you have to play a normal, and you can beat the last boss the first attempt. And that to me was a, again, very underwhelming experience. I think that's the conclusion of the best system. It's just way too easy. Yeah, so you're not done yet. Let's continue on battle systems, or generally extra content. So the game has another very glaring issue. And again, this means the game doesn't feel much of a game, right? It lacks that JRPG, especially the Final Fantasy feeling. That's the extra content. So the game has no actual mini games, and I mean like mini games, not the arm lifting, but like Chocobo Racing, right? Or card games, or Blitzball and so on. And of course, people say, oh, but it's only Midgar, so you can't have racing. Well, yes, you could. You could add a racing in Midgar. You could have a card game that Chile could play in Midgar. It doesn't have to be Chocobo Racing. They could add, a virtual reality Blitzball, whatever. It could be a new game. The game, to be a typical JRPG, especially a Final Fantasy full-costing JRPG game, you should have an actual meta gaming inside the game, right? Which is they are known for. This game has nothing of that. It has the pull-ups, the gym thing, which is the hardest thing in the game. You do it once, and then you you're done, right? It's an actual like a game in a game. That's very disappointing. But another thing that the game lacks then is the actual super bosses. So this is me fighting the last super boss in the game. You have to beat everything else before this boss. You have to do the other boss on hard and so on. You get this thing. And this is the first time I fight this boss. Ultimate weapon and trophies there. And I defeated it in one attempt. It was super easy. The boss before actually harder. And again, very underwhelming, right? So this is on hard, more hesitant on hard and so on. And it's just incredibly easy. What happened to the Omega weapon, the Ruby weapon, the Emerald weapon, and so on, right? Again, people can say, oh, but Ruby weapon is in the desert. Yes, but of course my point here is that you could have used other weapons. You could have had something new in the game. You could have had, you know, Neo Bahamut weapon extra 5 level 37, right? You could have something else in this virtual reality battle. Unfortunately, the game is very, very cheap on any super boss challenge, right? There's barely any extra game content after you defeat the game. You can replay it on hard, and when you've done hard, you have like 3 extra battles, and they're all incredibly easy. And I truly mean super easy. First attempt defeats. It is very lackluster in that typical extra game content that JRPG are known for, and then again, especially Final Fantasy is known for. So it both lacks the super bosses, extra bosses, and so on, and it lacks the mini game features, right? The blitzball and so on. There's nothing of that. You could have had something new, right? So that's a big bummer, really, in the game. So while the game really perfectly excels on any kind of characterization, visualization, graphic, the dance, no, but everything here is really great, right? Every damn cutscene is amazing. It's the actual extra game content and so on is very weird. So the game is very hard to review in that sense, because it's like you're loving these moments. I'm really loving these moments. I'm loving the extra parts. I'm loving the dialogue, right? I'm loving all the cutscenes again, all the moments, all the cool flashbacks and so on. But I'm also wondering, it's like, what's happening in between, right? And the problem is that if you just cut away all the gameplay and just give me a movie instead, where I am then watching the whole game, right, I would probably enjoy it more. As I mentioned earlier, if the game, and this kind of, I guess, paradoxically then, if the game would have removed content set, right, all the annoying padding stuff, the game would probably be better, but I also want more extra content. But that's because extra content isn't just about, like, okay, I want a short, streamlined, you know, narration experience. It's because I also want to have that JRPG strategy, that extra challenge, right? So the game lacks a challenge, but instead it adds out in like padding and squeezing through rocks and dodging stuff and so on. And that's what I get content instead of getting actual like end game content, right? So it's a very hard game to actually score. Really hard game to score. I want to go back a little bit to the party discussion again. I know it must sound a weird ending here, but that red isn't playable. To some people it's probably like a nitpick. Oh, I can't play red and so on. But I think that red not being playable is a very like telling of what this game is, right? Because the game's kind of is a movie of the game, right? So you can play red. Some people don't care about that. I care about it a lot, I guess, because I like Red's character. But my main issue with it is from the gameplay aspect, right? So first of all, usually you have at least twice as many active party members. So you have like 6 members in F13, 3 active, 12 the same thing, you have 9 and 9 is really not alright. But not being able to play red means you only have 4 party members, 3 active. That's kind of strange. There's a lot of strategy and a lot of possibilities. But the main thing is that when you're playing a role-playing game, you have your immersion, right? You have, I want to play with these 3 characters. Oh, I really love this zombie guy. Oh, I love this hot chick with really badass, you know, fists, and oh, that's awesome. I want to play this other woman with some bad, like katana. This is just cool. Yeah, you want to play your character that you like, right? That's how JRPG games usually are. You have your team of like maybe 8, 9 characters. And if you talk to your friends about the same game, they're like, oh yeah, I played those 3 characters. Oh, I played those 3. Oh, you like that guy? And usually you have 1 or 2 characters that you both like, right? And you play with your favorite characters. Simple, I would never play FF9 without Vivi, right? I love Vivi, so I play Vivi, right? Yeah. That's kind of how the game is. You have a mixture of min, max, what's the best character to play? Queen and FF9, yeah. But who do you want to play? I want to play Vivi, right? Yeah. So that's the typical experience from a role-playing game, you know, gameplay. The immersion of playing your favorite characters. For example, I'm right now playing Trials of Mana, and of course you pick 3 out of 6 characters, right? But in this game then you have to play constantly what the game tells you. And that is clearly because the game constantly wants to show you, oh, look at this cool cutscene. Look at Tifa doing this thing in this fight, right? Look at Barrett doing this stuff and so on. So it's always, that is more about the visualization. It's about showing you basically a movie, and not letting you actually play the character you like in the game, or letting you actually decide on the strategic moments, right? And I think that's kind of is the game's downfall then, right? You're playing a gameplay where it definitely feels like the hand-holding is extreme, and the game tells me where to go, who to play with, and what I can do with the characters. And it's just kind of strange. You're sitting there, you're like, but I want to play with this character. No, we have to play this character. Okay. And in the end, the next part is probably a lot better. We get the open world, we get all the characters and so on, right? But for now then, you really are playing, you feel more like I'm watching something. And because the game is so easy then, and I really mean it is incredibly easy, you have an experience that's like, it feels like it's playing itself, right? I can't select my party, and the bosses are very binary in the weakness. It's very like this or this. So the strategy is very, very simplistic. I can't pick my own party members either, and so on. So you kind of just go with the flow, right? You just go with the flow. And again, then that makes it be, as I mentioned, title. And I really mean this. Must negative here, but no, I really love the game when it comes to the visualization, the art direction, the character design, right? The interaction. Again, yes, being so thirsty, but all that is really, really good. It's really, really good. And some of the meaning like the biking thing, it looks, stunning, and it's visually amazing and so on. But where is the actual gameplay, right? Or the gameplay is like I have to squeeze through stuff and press a lot of buttons. And in the end, then the game is very hard to give a fair review, I feel. If I review a movie, 11 out of 10, right? Amazing visual thing. Removing the gameplay, it's like a 5 out of 10. So it's, again, could be the hardest game I had to review in my life. Analyzing this game has been very, 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 very complicated. And I had to play the whole game twice, and I'm still not sure on, like, do I like the game or not? I still don't even know! Because again, right, these moments are amazing. I'm crying when I play the game. Like, it's a game that made me cry several times, but I'm also analytical saying that, man, the battle gameplay. So I mean, what is the actual gameplay, right? I mean, again, I love the every damn character interaction scene, but then I have this gameplay which is like, you kite the boss forever, you will not die in the first attempt, you do Tifa one attack, 10% of his life points. I'm like, what is boss battle? It's super easy. How can it be so incredibly easy? It's like, what is happening with the actual gameplay? And of course, we have all those padding scenes. One thing I really want to explain, I feel, and I hope you guys like the review right, because I'm trying my best to really make it as objective as possible. I was like, is that the problem, I think, with these padding scenes, and this is definitely the worst part of the game. I didn't talk about the combat, because I'm a combat designer, for my life and so on, so it's hard for me not to combat, but I think the problem here with these things, and I want to leave you with this in the review before I give you the score, is that if this is for harder, and I'll talk a lot about, shells harder and so on, but I think that a problem with this arm thing is that they are brainlessly easy. They're used there to really pad out time, right? You can easily understand in a second how to get the materia, and when you replay it on hard, it's even no material gets, it's even more boring because you use the same thing. And it doesn't get hard on hard. On hard is the exact same little puzzle thing, right? So when I look at this thing, I think about, for example, Pokemon and other, of course, JRPG games. Pokemon always had this ice stuff, definitely. I mean, have the slide stuff and so on, right? Puzzle games, and they are much harder than this game. Pokemon, of course, are a game for children mainly, right? But this game is so incredibly boring, little puzzle games, right? If the game had much more challenging ARM games, it wouldn't feel as padded out. One of the classic game I played a lot, is Vagrant Story, also from Square Enix. Vagrant Story has very, very complicated puzzle games, similar to Katarina Full Body, actually, where they push different stuff and so on, push different boxes. And if the ARM things in this game would be like a Vagrant Story, I think I would have loved them, right? It would be like, oh, here's another mini game, you have to do the puzzle thing, and then you play it hard, it would be more complicated. Then it would be great. But now instead it's the most boring, most like juvenile little mini game. You lift one thing, put it over the lifted, and it just takes a lot of time, often very slowly. And again, it's very jarring. Chapter 9, incredibly boring in the beginning, incredibly awesome at the end of it, right? The pump thing, similar thing. Maybe even worse, the whole up and down thing with Tifa, Barret, and Cloud, where it's like, how can you even fail at things? It's incredibly simplistic, right? If they were 10 times harder, more complicated, more interesting puzzles and so on, it would be so much better. And that leaves you with that bad taste in your mouth, because you really feel like they made an amazing movie, and then they were like, well, if you play the storyline now, the game is going to be like 10 hours. Okay, we have to add in a lot of squishing through rocks, a lot of running through corridors back and forward, and a lot of very, very mini games that are super easy, just to add out time and make the arm moves extra slow, right? And I think this really reduces the game's score, right? If I was just scoring it from, again, story, aesthetic, graphics, 10 out of 10 easily, 11 out of 10, amazing. If I score it from the battle system, even if I find a battle system, not utilized fully, it's probably like a 7 out of 10 battle system, with the potential of 10 out of 10 if they made the bosses harder and so on, if they maybe add some extra bosses later on and so on, in some DLC, whatever, it might be amazing. Part 2, I think, is going to have a really good battle system. But it's a little bit that, I'll say one thing, nitpicky, but you can update your materia from weapon to weapon in the game, that's great. Because the game makes you change character all the time, currently also makes you change materia through characters. What's up with that, right? So anyway, a lot of that stuff. So it's like a potential 10 out of 10, probably a 7 out of 10. But I would genuinely give this arm thing, the pump thing, and so forth, like a 0 out of 10 in like just really boring, padding out mini games. And I haven't talked to anyone that likes them. Everyone hates these ones. They are really badly done. 0 out of 10. When it comes to puzzle things, it's not even a puzzle. It's basically like move this thing over here. Like no one can fail them. It just takes a lot of time, right? And it's clearly there, just at a time. So what I mentioned earlier, of course, is that if the game was like 10 hours shorter, removing all these padding issues, the game would be a lot better. And I think the game should be better for that. Just move it would be better. And if you remove that and then instead spend some time, throwing in some extra bosses that are super boss, ultimate weapon and so on, instead of that, it will be so much better. Yeah, let me grind a bit, right? It's not grinding again, you have to grind. So anyway, so the final score then, and I truly mean that I took weeks thinking about this thing. This is how I do reviews here on my channel. I take tremendously lot of time analyzing this review, and I'm still not sure about it, but I feel that the game is a 6.5 out of 10. That must sound super harsh, and again, visually wise, 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10, right? Combat system, I feel that 7 is like a nice, fair value for it from its lacks of strategy and so on, but from its very good basic fundamental combat. But everything is so padded out. It's so unnecessary. It's so weird. You have to sit there and play the game and be like, why am I doing this stuff? And especially when I played on the hard, you just dreaded it. Oh no, it's a chapter. It's gonna be so boring. Yeah, like that shouldn't be your experience. When I played it on hard, I literally sat there and I was thinking for many chapters that, oh no, not this chapter, oh not this part. There are several parts that I wish I could skip this part. Like that shouldn't be the space of the game. And it's really, it feels harsh, but that's my honest experience. When I'm sitting there, I'm thinking that if I could remove half this chapter, it would be a 10 out of 10 game. And that, right, is very then jarring. It's content added that makes the game worse, right? It's just like, whoa. So anyway, that's it, guys. FF7 remake, long review. I probably still will buy the next part, because I think the combat system is gonna be even better. The combat system has the potential to be amazing, and again, then when you have more playable characters and more freedom to move and so on, it's probably gonna be a lot better, right? So anyway, that's the review. Please subscribe, press that like button, leave a comment what you think about the game. So popularly, some people aren't too mad. Obviously, the score is very low. People are kind of, very, and I want to love the game, and I do love the game. It's to some degree, but I also really maybe hate some of it. But I do hate all this arm thing, and I hate the puzzle. Oh god, I hate them all. So anyway, see you guys, and have a great day.